Farm Week is a production of the Mississippi State University Extension Service.
Today on Farm Week, dry conditions are predicted to continue in southeast Mississippi due to La Nina.
Meanwhile, there's a good chance the La Nina will mean dry weather or drought in the major corn and soybean growing areas.
In southern gardening, bumblebees, you can attract them like butterflies and they're not dangerous.
In the markets, catfish prices hold well above year-ago levels, while corn traders are concerned about available grain supplies.
In the feature segment, Charles Dismukes, the Mississippi Forestry Association's Outstanding Tree Farmer of the Year. Dismukes has worked locally, at the state and national levels to promote forestry and forestry education.
I tell you, my attitude is that if they told me I wasn't going to live but 2 more weeks, I'd want to plant some trees before I left. And if we don't do that, future generations won't have it.
Good day, everyone. I'm Leighton Spann.
And I'm Artis Ford. Welcome to Farm Week.
It's dry in the coastal plain section of Mississippi, and it could get drier.
Leighton, the latest seasonal drought outlook is not good for southeastern Mississippi. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration said that the same can be said for many areas that suffered dry weather last year. NOAA says the ongoing La Nina event in the Pacific Ocean favors drought persistence or development for the next 3 months in southeast Mississippi and across the southern tier of the United States. NOAA also says Mississippi had its 15th warmest January last month. Those records reach back 118 years.
The present La Nina is the second strongest recorded. Some analysts see a 60% chance of a change in weather patterns after corn and soybeans are planted. One Iowa State University Extension climatologist is not convinced the abnormally dry conditions are over in some areas.
La Nina puts high and low pressure systems opposite each other on the equator, impacting weather all over the planet.
So if we get high pressure and low pressure in different places, some places will be wet, some places will be dry. It tends to be during the winter that the Corn Belt during the La Nina is dry for the winter in the western half and sopping wet along the Ohio River Valley.
Taylor says this is part of the reason portions of Alaska have seen abnormally high snowfall this winter, and any evidence of snow is hard to find on the farm fields of Iowa or in other Corn Belt states. Taylor says 3 factors are in play for much of the country's weather pattern.
The El Nino-La Nina event is one of them, a very important one. The Pacific Decadal Oscillation, the conditions between Hawaii and Alaska, is the second, and the third one is what happens on the East Coast with the North Atlantic Oscillation, which is responsible for giving us a tendency to rougher or milder winters depending on the phase that it is in.
Tile lines are dry, creeks low, riverbeds exposed. The pattern is similar to the last major drought to impact the Midwest in 1988.
We are really set up for it to happen. That doesn't mean that it will. We hope that the setup dies out before it becomes crucial. But it is the same setup right now, 4 months earlier on the calendar.
The University of Nebraska-Lincoln's Drought Monitor shows continued extreme dry conditions in New Mexico through Texas to the southeast. Much of this region baked under extreme heat in 2011 as little rain fell, and now may serve as an indicator for the Corn Belt.
The drought in the southeast that we didn't hear much about last year was still very real. They have a habit of being still there in the beginning of the second year. 16 of the past 17 major droughts started in the Carolinas and then expanded into the Corn Belt. And that then becomes a statistical risk for 2012 of what was in Carolina moving into the Corn Belt this year.
Well, do you think that you're the only gardening enthusiast working in your landscape? In this week's Southern Gardening segment, Extension horticulturist Dr. Gary Bachman shows us how hard bumblebees labor in the garden.
Our mission at Southern Gardening is to show you many beautiful scenes from the garden. These exquisite flowers require a lot of hard work from the home gardener. But there's another gardening enthusiast whose work we often forget about, the bumblebee. Bumblebees are busy little insects that constantly buzz from flower to flower, collecting pollen, and in the process providing pollination for the eventual production of fruit and seeds. Bumblebees are attracted to many flowering plants. Just look at how many bumblebees are on these Victoria purple salvia. The flowers are actually a collection of many small flowers on a single stalk. Notice how this bee works each individual flower on the stalk. Another flower that attracts lots of bumblebees are coneflowers. The bumblebees constantly investigate the entire cone before moving to the next flower. Look at this particular bumblebee, which appears to be packing massive saddlebags of pollen on each of his back legs. Perhaps my favorite is this busy bumblebee working amongst Mexican petunias. Notice that he almost disappears deep into each flower searching for pollen. After coming out, he grooms himself before continuing his pollen quest. Bumblebees not only search for pollen, but also for sugars. In the fall, these bumblebees are attracted to ripe muscadines. The sugar in the fruit provides energy in preparation for winter and often results in a feeding frenzy. To many gardeners, bumblebees seem aggressive and may sting, but actually they're quite passive. Generally speaking, if you leave them alone, they'll leave you alone. Rest assured, they're an important and necessary part of all of our gardens. I'm Gary Bachman for Southern Gardening.
Bumblebee.org says, Leighton, that a bumblebee can fly about 40 minutes on a full stomach and that it takes about 60 flowers to fill up a bumblebee, but he may have to visit 100, to find the nectar that he needs. Wow. In the feature segment, Charles Dismukes, the Mississippi Forestry Association's Outstanding Tree Farmer of the Year. Dismukes' forestry career started with a forestry project in 4-H. Time now for the markets with Leighton, and you say we have some new supply-demand numbers from the government.
They were released Thursday morning, artists, and we will have some analysis here. Also ahead this week, U.S. catfish processing continues to dip. The dollar index could impact the calf and fat cattle market, and future pork demand in China is a concern for U.S. producers. We begin with the February 9th supply and demand numbers out of D.C. Drovers Cattle Network calls these reports neutral for the corn market. USDA increased corn exports by 50 million bushels and cut ending stocks by 45 million. Now, the soybean figures in the reports were called bearish by most of the trade. U.S. bean ending stocks were left unchanged and South American production was trimmed. All of this is exactly what broker Nolan Cullen expected when I talked to him over the internet Wednesday afternoon. Nolan, what is the market expecting as far as the new crop reports?
Well, most of the forecasts are out, and in general, the market, specifically the corn, is looking for some reduction in the government's figures from their last number of 846 million, which was a bearish surprise. The general consensus is we should see at least a 50 million bushel reduction in carryout, and of course, this should come from the weather problems being experienced in the southern hemisphere in both Brazil and Argentina, looking for fairly substantial 20% reductions in crop in those areas. In the cases of soybeans, we'll probably see very few changes. The last government figure was 290. The market's looking for some reduction based on the South American situation, but in fact, there is talk that maybe Chinese exports will also be reduced since sales are running somewhat behind. In the case of wheat and cotton, we don't see many changes taking place there. There'll be minor changes, but the trend in those markets has been that the government will in fact raise carryover based on adequate production worldwide in wheat and because of declining business in the cotton market. There is one risk to the downside here. Over the last several weeks and since the last government report, we've had a substantial buildup in the fund long position. So therefore, if these numbers don't come in a bullish posture, we could see some downside risk on the very short term.
And really here we're talking about a tale of two crops, so to speak, when we talk about old crop versus new crop at this time.
That's correct, Leighton. We're in a key situation here. We don't have anything in the ground. We've harvested the old crop. We make projections on the carryout figure. And at this point, we can look at the market. And for example, in corn, the spread is over 70 cents premium to the old crop over new crop. I think the market's telling us they're concerned about available supplies now. So the old crop would be bullish. In the case of new crop, projections are as much as 94 to 95 million acres of corn planted. That's a bearish situation. So we look for the spreads here to tell us whether this supply situation will continue to tighten. In the case of soybeans, a month ago the market was at a premium old crop to new crop, and that market has gone to a slight discount at this point in time, and this is mainly because Chinese exports have slowed somewhat. In that case, we would look to be bearish old crop, bullish new crop because of the unknown South American production yet, and whether soybeans will need to buy acres from corn later in the year.
Let's give you our bean-related trivia quiz to think about before proceeding on. How many bushels of soybeans does the Mississippi catfish industry use each year? Could the answer be 1 million, 2.3 million, 4 million, or almost 5.5 million? That answer will be coming up.
We're going to pause for a short break on Farm Week. Coming up, we'll look at the calendar of the second part of the markets. Leighton Spann reports farm-raised catfish prices remain above year-ago levels, while China is the wild card in the pork trade. In the feature segment today, you'll go to North Central Mississippi, where Charles Dismukes' membership in 4-H ended up with him becoming a respected forester and tree farmer.
Our tradition of learn by doing is creating new opportunities. My 4-H is involved with service projects in communities all across our state.
We develop leaders for Mississippi's future.
My 4-H is science and technology, everything from computers and robotics to exploring our environment.
My 4-H promotes active lifestyles and encourages physical fitness, healthy foods, and nutrition.
My 4-H is Mississippi 4-H.
Before we get back to the markets, let's look at the Farm Week calendar. Mississippi State University's North Mississippi Research and Extension Center will host its annual Producer Advisory Council on Thursday the 16th. The location is the Magnolia Conference Center, which is adjacent to the Lee County Agri Center at Wynonna. Runs from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. Lunch is included. 15 breakout sessions on various commodities, including fruits and nuts, will be held. This is your chance to have input on the center's research. 2 market-ready training sessions are coming up. Market Ready is designed to help producers market their food products directly to restaurants and retail managers. There's no registration fee, but you are asked to register ahead of time. The training will be held Friday, March 2nd at the Pontotoc County Extension Service Office on Hardin Jr. Drive in Pontotoc. Another session will be held Thursday, March 8th. That takes place at the Lyman Community Center on Highway 49 in Gulfport. Go to our Farm Week website at farmweek.msucares.com for information on these and other events. Now check out this week's Farm Week Snapshot.
Well, U.S. catfish prices are still up. Let's look at the latest government snapshot of this industry next. This reflects activity during the month of December. The average pond bank price being paid to U.S. producers in December was $1.25 per pound. That is 39 cents per pound higher than 1 year ago at that time. Farm sales totaled over 22.5 million pounds round weight. That is a drop of 35% from December 2010. Processor sales were just over 11 million pounds. That is a drop of 33%. The beef sector is an export-dependent market these days. Consequently, the dollar index could impact the calf and fat cattle market in a big way. Analyst Darren Newsom says the dollar index is giving some mixed signals, which should be monitored in the beef sector.
We've had a nice run in it. It certainly looks like it wants to continue higher, but it's getting a little bit overdone at this point. We're seeing some more bullish economic news coming out that takes some of the steam out of the dollar. We've recently seen the Federal Reserve saying they're not going to do anything with interest rates until 2014. That takes fundamental support out of the dollar. So I think once the situation in Europe calms down a little bit, and if we start to get a better feel for that, the euro may start to gain some strength, and that's going to put some pressure on the U.S. dollar index. I wouldn't anticipate it to be long term. Maybe over the spring see it sag a little bit, then come back later in the year.
Meanwhile, over in the hog sector, there's some fear that demand is going away as a bigger hog herd and the numbers continue to grow. Analyst Sue Martin says China may be the wild card here due to the crucial nature of our export sales to that country.
They're buying hogs. The demand for pork has been pretty good. We need to see how much China's been buying. I think consumption of meat is slowing down in China, and so that may be a concern for hogs. But I think overall you're looking at two bullish markets. They may go for a setback first and then come back again.
Before the feature, let's look at the answer to our trivia quiz. This week that answer is D. The Mississippi catfish industry uses almost 5.5 million bushels of soybeans each year.
In today's feature segment, the present Mississippi Forestry Association Outstanding Tree Farmer of the Year. The Call of Forestry found Charles Dismukes of Kilmichael early in his life. He began tree farming at the age of 13, eventually followed a career that saw him own his own timber company and work to further forestry on a national, state, and county basis.
My management plan goes out 15 years now, from 2010. I updated it in 2010 and it goes out 15 years from there. Now, I have had some kind of a management plan since for at least 60 years.
Charles Dismukes and his wife Carolyn live on their 1,158-acre registered tree farm northwest of Kilmichael, Mississippi. Mr. Dismukes grew up on the original 105 acres first purchased by his grandfather. Registered in 1959, the tree farm has trees ranging from just planted to more than 60 years. Dismukes has not only tree farmed, he also started the Vaden Timber Company, which his sons Barry and Brian operate today. Dismukes is also a registered forester in Alabama and Mississippi. He works to promote forestry at the local, state, and national levels.
One of the quotes he told me about is like, those that show up win. You have to be there in order to make things happen. So some just life skills that he is always sharing.
Vicky Roberts of Wynonna is the current president of the Montgomery County Forestry Association. She started participating in the association 10 years ago after her father passed away and the family land was turned into a tree farm. At first glance, Roberts and Dismukes might not appear to have much in common, but she considers him a mentor.
We both have something in common. We both love land, and he's a good steward of the land, and his basic principles about life. You know, he's a big giver. I think that people would not find that out from him because he doesn't like to talk about that. I have a vision for it, but he actually has the land where I can come and see the trails that he has on his property, the ponds. I can come see the visual of what I'm trying to do with the goals for our family property also.
Roberts likes to read through Dismukes' 4-H youth record book because 4-H is where his forestry career started at age 13.
It was in '51, and a new assistant county agent, Mr. Bob Wilson, came into this area, and he was real enthusiastic with a 4-H club. Every school had a 4-H club in those days. He started to work on the kids around here, and he looked at my place and he says, y'all don't farm much, so you need a forestry project.
That led to Forester Ralph Robertson with the Mississippi State University Extension Service helping the young Dismukes to formulate a tree management plan for 65 acres of his family's land. Field days were held at the property demonstrating proper tree planting and management. Dismukes' interest in forestry grew. He won the Mississippi and National 4-H Forestry Project Awards in 1957. That led to a 4-year college scholarship from Homelight Chainsaws. Dismukes graduated with a forestry degree from Mississippi State University in 1961. Even in high school, Dismukes' reputation for forestry knowledge caused him to be called as an expert witness in a court case.
When I was 15 years old, I got a subpoena from a judge in Wynonna. and I was subpoenaed as an expert witness in a timber trespass case at 15 years of age. And naturally, it was kind of getting to me, but I went over there and I told them what I knew about timber and what I knew about trespassing, and I guess the guy won his case, and so I guess he was happy.
Dismukes continued to share his forestry knowledge while he operated his timber buying company. He tried to persuade every landowner he worked with to replant after the harvest. I always had a service. If I would make arrangements to get it tree planted and get the TSI with the site preparation work done. Now, I didn't pay for it, but if he'd save enough money to do the paying, I would do all of the work as far as getting it replanted for him. And that still holds today with my sons.
If someone doesn't have a consultant forester of their own, I mean, we've always been, if they want us to, we'd be willing to advise them on how to go about replanting and who to talk to in your extension service and your county foresters, and then they can give them all kinds of advice on that.
Julian Watson, the 2009 Mississippi Forestry Association Outstanding Tree Farmer of the Year, is a client of the Dismukes. For more than 10 years, their Vaden Timber Company is the only one he lets thin the trees on his Holmes County land.
People say, well, why don't you get somebody else? I said, well, you know, I'm very loyal. They've been loyal to me, and I'm loyal to them. They do a great job.
Dismukes not only logged and tree farmed, he spent a lot of time after hours working on behalf of the forest industry. For example, he's a life member of the Mississippi Forestry Association and MFA's foundation. He served in many MFA roles, being an advocate for Mississippi forestry. In 2008, Dismukes received its highest honor, the Meritorious Service to Forestry Award. His active work to promote the forestry profession saw him declared a Fellow of the Society of American Foresters, its highest honor. Locally, Dismukes is a member of 3 county forestry associations.
Charles has been a member of just about every forestry organization I can think of, the Southern Hardwood Group, SAF, MFA. He's a charter member of the Montgomery County Forestry Association and been the president 2 or 3 times.
He has shared his knowledge with a lot of landowners, both here in Montgomery County and in Carroll County also.
Dismukes has also planted seeds for the future of forestry by donating to the College of Forest Resources at Mississippi State University. He funds a scholarship for an ambassador, a student who recruits other students into the college.
What they needed was call it the ambassador scholarship. And actually they give the scholarship to students, and these students in turn recruit other students for the forestry school. And I thought that was a good thing. My wife thought it was a really good thing too.
It was neat for me while I was at Mississippi State. I was an ambassador with the College of Forest Resources, and I received a scholarship from a guy named Charles Dismukes, and I knew he was from Vaden and was the owner of Vaden Timber Company, and it's really neat now that I'm standing on his farm, seeing what all he's done and getting to know him.
The Dismukes family operates a multi-use tree farm where timber production, hunting, recreation, and education work together. It's not unusual to see groups ranging from homeschoolers to Boy Scouts on the Dismukes tree farm. This forestry class from Holmes Community College came recently for an opportunity to work in a managed forest. Field days are not uncommon for local landowners. The future looks promising for the Dismukes tree farm. It remains the center of family activity. One grandson is majoring in surveying while the other is majoring in forestry.
He likes forestry and he likes wildlife, so he's trying to get that double major into that. So he just likes being involved in it. I guess it's in the blood.
I tell you, my attitude is that if they told me I wasn't going to live but 2 more weeks, I'd want to plant some trees before I left. And if we don't do that, future generations won't have it. We'll go to our Farm Week story, our website, I should say, if you want to see that story again. That's farmweek.msucares.com. You can also go to YouTube or our Facebook page.
If you're interested in improving your forest land, contact the Mississippi Forestry Association. They can get you in touch with a local county forestry association where you'll meet other landowners like yourself. You can also call the Natural Resources Conservation Service of the U.S. Department of Agriculture. You can also find forestry information and expertise through the Mississippi State University Extension Service or the Mississippi Forestry Commission. Once again, we'll have that contact information on our Farm Week website. That's farmweek.msucares.com. Well, we are at the end of Farm Week for this week. On our next show, we'll look back at the year 2011 in Mississippi agriculture.
Mississippi voters elected their first woman Commissioner of Agriculture, and Republicans now control both houses of the Mississippi legislature. It was a weather year as well as tornadoes killed many.
And in Southern Gardening next week, Spring Color will preview some of the plants available for you to plant this spring. If you'd like further information on a Farm Week story or want to suggest a story to us, get in touch. You can also find us on Facebook and YouTube. We thank those of you who have clicked on us and liked us. Our mailing address, Farm Week Box 9625, Mississippi State, Mississippi 39762. That's Farm Week Box 9625, Mississippi State, Mississippi 39762. Our telephone number 662-325-2262. You can also get in touch with us through your county office at the Mississippi State University Extension Service. For the rest of the Farm Week crew, I'm Artis Ford.
And I'm Leighton Spann. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.